I request the AV team to roll the introduction of Dr. Himanshu Rai.
Some people climb the corporate ladder, some people climb mountains, and then there's Dr. Himanshu Rai, who does both and makes it look so easy. From scaling Kilimanjaro to taking IIM Indore to global heights, he knows how to reach the top. Under his leadership, the institute joined an elite club of 100 institutions worldwide with the prestigious Triple Crown accreditation, a feat rarer than a stress-free MBA student. He's not just an educator, he's a negotiation guru, a best-selling author, a TEDx speaker, and a master of leadership. And just when you think you've got him figured out, he surprises you. He's an adventurer, a yogi, a quiz master, a theater enthusiast, and someone who has skydived from 13,000 feet. Because why keep both feet on the ground when you can aim for the sky? With a career that spans corporate leadership, government advisory roles, and even conflict resolution across multiple countries, he is a visionary, a mentor, and an inspiration. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dr. Himanshu Rai.
Uddhamen hi siddhyanti. Strive, drive, thrive. A very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I've been blamed of being a lot of things, like you would have seen in my introduction. But one thing that I've never been blamed of is being an economist. But here, I am going to open my talk by making 4 predictions, which only an economist could have made. And these are the 4 predictions which talk about the great potential that our country, Bharat, has. My first prediction: India will be the second largest economy by 2047. My second prediction: India will be a major hub for IT, raising the revenues from $254 billion to $2.28 trillion, in biotech from $100 billion to $500 billion, and renewable energy from 132 gigawatts to 1,500 gigawatts. My third prediction: India will be super advanced in healthcare, driven by artificial intelligence and telemedicine, which is going to rise from $15 billion to $50 billion. And finally, India will be a global leader in skilled workforce, with a current workforce of 470 million to 1.1 billion in 2047. Now, if everything is so hunky-dory, what are the challenges that our country is going to face? And the biggest challenge is that we are entering into a world which earlier we used to call the VUCA world. We said the world is volatile, the world is uncertain, the world is complex, it's ambiguous. But the world that we are entering today is what we call the Bani world. The B of the Bani stands for brittle. All the systems that we thought were rock solid turned out to be brittle. For example, in COVID, before COVID, we thought that the global supply chains were fantastic. They were rock solid. The world was a village. Along comes COVID, and everything was shut down. Countries shut down. Within countries, the state shut down. Within states, the cities shut down. My beautiful 193-acre campus of IIM Indore shut down. And we realized that the global supply chains are perhaps fragile and brittle. The A of the Bani stands for anxious. There seems to be a collective anxiety. And one of the anxiety is about artificial intelligence. This is one of the questions I'm often asked. Is AI going to replace human beings? And my answer to them is no. AI is not going to replace human beings, but people who know and use AI are going to replace those who don't use or know AI. And second is geopolitics, which is causing a lot of anxiety. But the less said, the better, so far as the geopolitics is concerned. The N of the Bani stands for non-linear. Something which happens in one part of the world seems to be affecting another part of the world. And without any reason, apparently. For example, when the Russia-Ukraine war extended into its third month, the real estate prices in Dubai got up. Now, you might say, hey, that's a correlation. There cannot be a causality, but there was a causality. And the causality was that the richie riches of both the countries realized that the war is going to be a prolonged one, so they took their money, and where do you invest? In the real estate of Dubai. And suddenly Dubai saw an upsurge in real estate prices. And finally, the I of the Bani stands for incomprehensible. There are some things which we simply do not understand and perhaps cannot understand. For example, climate change. We thought that the global temperature should not rise beyond 2 degrees centigrade. Then we said, no, hang on. We need to correct it, 1.5 degrees centigrade. And now, with some of the world leaders and some of the countries of the global north pulling out of the climate program, we really don't know where we are headed. It almost seems like we are stealing from our future generations and filling up the pockets of today's generation. And therefore, what do we need to do? How do we address these challenges? And like he very eloquently explained, we can address it by strive, drive, and thrive. What do we strive for? We have to strive for excellence. And how do you strive for excellence? By making sure that you are willing to experiment, that you're not afraid to fail. Why did we talk about Uddameni Siddhanti? Uddameni Siddhanti Karyani na manorathai nahi suptasya singhasya pravishanti mukhe mrigaha. Why are we talking about lions here? 2 reasons. One, to me, each and every person over here is the lion and lioness of my country. All of you are the lions and lionesses of my country because you are going to shape the future of my country. Now, I don't know how many of you know this, but a lion succeeds in his hunt only once in 4 attempts. Now, imagine you're a lion and you're chasing your prey. You fail. What would the lion do? Would the lion sit down with his mouth open and say, I'm not going to chase anymore? No, the lion rests, takes a few deep breaths, thoda bhasrika pranayam karta hai, punah daudta hai. The lion fails again. The lion rests, takes a few deep breaths, chases again, the lion fails again, but the 4th time when the lion chases, that's when he gets his prey. So ladies and gentlemen, please remember, hard work in life is necessary, but it is not sufficient. Beyond hard work, you need to have the perseverance, you need to have the grit, you need to have the patience, you need to have the resilience, that even if you fail, even if you fall, even if you stumble, you continue getting up and walking towards a vision that you have chosen for yourself. And fail you will. If there's anybody who's told you from the stage that he or she has never fallen, he or she has never stumbled, then he or she is either lying or they never did anything new. Because if you are trailblazing, you will fall. The only reason why you will not fall is if you're walking on a path that has been walked by millions before. And therefore, don't be afraid of failing. Don't be afraid of falling. The world is yours to take. Take it. Second is drive. And what do you drive? You drive innovation through positive mindset. And what is this positive mindset? There are 2 things in a positive mindset. One is be open to learning, because you can learn something from everyone and everything. It's like a professor of mine, he used to say, Himanshu, ज्ञान वर्षा हर समय हर स्थान पे होती है. प्रश्न ये है कि तुम उस ज्ञान वर्षा में सुराही लेकर के गए हो कि घड़ा? क्योंकि यदि सुराही लेकर के गए हो तो उसका मुख इतना छोटा है कि उसके अंदर कुछ भी नहीं जाएगा. Which means, do you approach people with an open heart or not? And the second important question, the more important question is, घड़ा तो लेकर के गए हो, कहीं भरा हुआ तो नहीं ले गए हो? क्योंकि यदि वो पहले से भरा हुआ है तो भी उसके अंदर कुछ नहीं जाएगा. तो यदि आप लोग में से कोई भी यहाँ ये सोच करके आए कि ये लोग क्या बताएंगे, मंचस्थ विद्वत, हमें तो सब कुछ पहले से पता है, तो भी कुछ अंदर नहीं जाएगा क्योंकि घड़ा पहले से ही भरा हुआ है. Which means, do you approach people with an open mind or not? And if you approach people with an open heart and an open mind, you will learn something from everyone and everything. Not just from animate objects, but even from inanimate objects. Where have we learned the yogasanas from? We have a yoga guru sitting right here. योगासन हमने कहाँ से सीखे हैं? मार्जरी आसन, भुजंग आसन, शशक आसन, जानवरों से. वृक्षासन, ताड़ आसन, पर्वत आसन, inanimate objects से. Only thing that you need is an open heart and an open mind. And the second thing that you take out of your negativity is this entire thing about what money represents. For many people, money represents control. Money represents self-worth. Money represents self-respect. Now, I'm not trying to be condescending towards money. It'll be extremely foolish of me, being a management professor, to be condescending towards money and also talking in front of such moneyed people. In this room, I think people own half of Indore. And therefore, I cannot be condescending towards money, but do remember, money is what money does. Nothing more, nothing less. It's merely an instrumentality. And therefore, to all my young friends out there, please remember, if at all, you only think in terms of your needs, you will realize that you have enough money to sustain. Like what Gandhi said, that this universe has got enough to satisfy every man's need. But this universe is going to fall short to satisfy even one man's greed. And therefore, can you differentiate between your need and your desire? Because desires are unlimited. Yad jagrito durum udaiti daivam tadu suptasya tathaivaiti. Duram gamam jyotisham jyotirekam tanme manah shiv sankalpamastu. ये जो हमारा मन है, ये चंचल मन है, ये जागृत अवस्था में भी उतनी दूर चला जाता है जितना कि सुप्तावस्था में. और इस मन में इच्छाएं उत्पन्न होती है. यदि हम उन इच्छाओं पर नियंत्रण कर लें, अर्थात यदि हम अपनी आवश्यकताओं और अपनी इच्छाओं इन दोनों के बीच में भिन्नता करें, तो हमें यह आभास होगा कि हमारे पास अपने जीवन के लिए पर्याप्त संसाधन हैं. एक जो कहानी मैं सुनाता हूं लोगों को, कहानी नहीं बल्कि वास्तविकता थी. जो पहला कुंभ हुआ था 2019 में, आई वॉज इन्वाइटेड बाय एन अखाड़ा. तो अमूमन ये उल्टा होता है कि हम बुलाते हैं, लेकिन उस बार मुझे बुलाया गया था एक अखाड़े में. और मैंने उनसे पूछा कि मुझे क्यों बुलाया गया. उन्होंने बोला, हिमांशु जी आपका थोड़ा वक्तव्य चाहिए, एक आपका भाषण चाहिए. और मैंने जो बहुत अच्छा काम किया वो ये कि उनसे एक संध्या पूर्व पूछ लिया कि आखिर मेरा विषय क्या है. और उन्होंने बोला, हिमांशु जी आपका विषय है कि अमृत क्या है, विष क्या है. ऐसे हैंग ऑन, ये लगता है आपने गलत हिमांशु को बुला लिया है. मुझे लगा कुछ नेतृत्व के विषय में, लीडरशिप, निगोशिएशन, इस विषय में मेरे को बोला जाएगा. बट इनसे नहीं, हमने आपका गूगल सर्च किया है, आप किसी भी विषय पे बोल सकते हैं. मैंने कहा वैसे तो मैं अध्यापक हूं, मैं बिना विषय के भी बोल सकता हूं, मेरे नाम में राय है वो भी दे सकता हूं, आप चाहे मांगे चाहे ना मांगे. परंतु आई थॉट, व्हाट डू आई टॉक टू पीपल हु हैव एब्डिकेटेड देयर लाइव्स, हु हैव एब्डिकेटेड देयर प्रोफेशन, who have abdicated their possessions. मैं उनको क्या बताऊं? And then जब मैंने थोड़ा चिंतन और आत्ममंथन किया, तो जो बात मैंने उस समय कही वो आपके सामने बता रहा हूं. मैंने बोला, जितना भी आपको आवश्यकता है उतना ग्रहण करना अमृत, इसके इतर जो भी किया वो विष. जितनी भूख लगी उतना खाना तो अमृत, उसके इतर आधी रोटी भी खा ली वो विष. जितनी प्यास लगी उतना पानी पीना भी अमृत, उसके इतर एक गिलास पानी भी पी लिया वो विष. और उसी तरह से आपको और आपके परिवार को जितने संसाधन की आवश्यकता है उतना संजो के रखना तो अमृत, इसके इतर यदि 1 रुपया भी संजोया तो आपके और आपके परिवार के लिए वो विष बन जाएगा. एंड देयरफॉर व्हाट यू नीड टू ड्राइव इज दिस इमेजिनेशन, यू नीड टू ड्राइव दिस पैशन. एंड फाइनली थ्राइव. हाउ डू यू थ्राइव? You thrive by understanding your own true self and by understanding your relationship with the universe around you. I keep telling people that every time I'm introduced, of course, very, very graciously and generously, I'm introduced as Himanshu Rai, the director of IMA Indore. Please remember, this is my most superficial identity because it is drawn from a designation that I have. It's okay if other people call me Himanshu Rai, the director of IMA Indore, but it is not okay if I start associating my identity with my designation. Why? Because more often than not, we tend to draw our self-respect and our self-esteem from our identity. Now look at this connection. If I'm drawing my identity from my designation, and if I'm drawing my self-respect from my identity, the day the designation goes, so will my self-respect. So will my self-worth. I'm not going to be the director forever. It's a 5-year tenure. I've finished 1 tenure. I'm in the 2nd tenure. After 4 years, I'll cease to be the director of IMA Indore. And therefore, when anybody asks me, who are you? When somebody meets me in the flight or at the airport, I tell them I'm a teacher. Or I tell them I'm a mountaineer. Because those are the 2 things from where I draw my true passion from. And therefore, you need to find out. You need to thrive only with your true identity and not through your designations or ranks. And then also try to understand what's your place in this universe. In 1989, the famous scientist Carl Sagan made an unusual request of NASA. The Voyager had crossed Saturn, so it had lived its useful life. Carl Sagan requested NASA to turn the Voyager around once and take a picture of the Earth. Now, NASA being a bureaucratic organization, there was a lot of back and forth, but eventually the chairman of the NASA stepped in, agreed to this demand, and on 14th of February 1990, they turned the Voyager and took a picture of the Earth. You can find that picture on Google if you Google it. It's a very small dot coming in the ray of the sun. And Carl Sagan called it the pale blue dot. And then he became philosophical. He said, all that you are is that pale blue dot. We think we are the center of the universe. We are not. This universe has got billions and billions of a galaxy. Of them, there is one galaxy called Milky Way. We are not the center of the Milky Way. The Milky Way has got a long tail. We are not even the center of that tail. On one end of the tail is a solar system. We are not even the center of that solar system. We are the third rock which is revolving around the sun in that solar system. So do understand who you truly are. But at the same time, there was a second side of the coin. And the second side of the coin was everyone that we know, everyone that we love, everything that we have is in that pale blue dot. And therefore, we need to take care of that pale blue dot. We need to understand what is our relationship with the universe. Why? Because जैसे ही हम प्रकृति के साथ अपना संबंध समझ जाते हैं, हमको ये भी समझ में आ जाता है कि हमारा उत्तरदायित्व क्या है. The moment you understand your relationship with someone, you automatically understand what your responsibility is. If I know this is my father, I automatically know what my responsibility is. If I know this is my friend, I automatically know what my responsibility is. And therefore, you need to understand what is your responsibility, what is your relationship with earth, what is your relationship with soil. वेदों में पुनः कहा गया है, ओम द्यौ शांति, अंतरिक्षम शांति, पृथ्वी शांति, रापः शांति, रोषधया शांति. Find out what is your relationship with each of these elements. And the moment you find that out, you will automatically realize what your responsibility towards these is. A little girl was walking with a father. And they were walking on the beach. The father was on the phone. He walked a few paces ahead of his daughter. And then when he finished his call, he looked back and he saw a wonderful scene. There were thousands and thousands of starfishes which were being washed ashore, and they were gasping for breath. And his little daughter was picking up those fish and throwing them back into the sea. So the father smiled, an indulgent smile, and said, "Darling, what are you doing?" The daughter said, "Dad, I'm trying to save these fish." The father said, "Baby, you can't save them all. Look at them. There are too many. You can't make a difference." The little girl bent, picked up a fish which was fluttering for breath, threw it back into the sea, and said, "Dad, I made a difference to that one." Ladies and gentlemen, be that girl. Thank you.